Hi, this is Heidi, episode 64, my weight loss success story. Life isn't a spectator sport. Success comes to those who show up every day with a pocket full of courage, grit, and a little sparkle. I'm glad you're here. Hello, y'all. How is it going? I'm glad you are here. Thank you for continually sharing this podcast with your family and friends, letting me know which concepts are new and helping you handle situations in your life with new confidence and new perspective. Please keep on rating and reviewing on iTunes. Okay, I'm really excited that I'm going to be starting a group weight loss coaching program at the beginning of January. It's going to be called Lose 13 Pounds in 13 Weeks, the confident way. I am so excited. I could just burst. This isn't going to be your typical program where I tell you what to do and we cheer each other on and commiserate. Okay, so there might be some of that since I am a cheerleader by nature, but our actions of eating or not eating, exercising or not exercising, figuring out our health issues or not, are not the problem. They seem like the problem, and that's what everyone else wants to fix with you. But my group coaching is going to address the root cause of these issues. We're going to dive into why we eat or not, what we believe about ourselves, where we get in our own way, strategies to handle life and emotions in ways other than buffering with food or other temporary pleasures. Now, registration will begin at the beginning of December. Everybody who signs up before December 7th will get a free 1-hour coaching call with me before we start the group coaching in January. And we can then create a personalized holiday strategy for you. So be ready to register. This program is going to reveal to you where you're getting stuck with your health goals, and you're going to see the effects in every other part of your life, because how we do anything is how we do everything. So watch for some holiday health and wellness webinars and signups for the program. Sign up with a friend. It's always great to have an accountability partner. Today, I want to dedicate an entire episode to my own weight loss journey. Many people who have known me the last 10 years or so of my life aren't aware that my weight has been a struggle for me for a very long time. And really, this goes back to my early teens. Even though my weight still fluctuates at times, I've been able to maintain a loss over the last 14 years because of very critical changes I made in my mindset, which then led to changes in my habits. But it all started with what I thought and believed about myself, which is why the coaching model has resonated so deeply with me. I finally had a way to explain to other people what I did and how I've been successful. Because when we change the inside, the outside automatically changes. Okay, as far back as I can remember, I have always loved sweets. I loved carbs like crazy. And I had very little nutrition education. I remember in my 20s someone asking me if I had eaten any protein that day at lunch, and I totally had no idea what was protein or what wasn't. I didn't know that cake would actually be classified as a carb. To me, cake made you fat, so it should be fat. So I loved sweets, carbs. I didn't have any sense of what type of food was good for me. And I wanted to also think that my body just had this predisposition to gain weight, which I think it maybe did. And I'm sure there are tests that doctors can do with your thyroid or things like that. I never did that. And honestly, I think I just ate more than other people. So no surprise, I gained weight. I remember just always being bigger than other people. I did lose weight in the middle of high school, and then I gained it back within the next year because I went back to old eating habits when I lost it. Deep down, I think I just believed I was a bigger person, that I couldn't be thin, so why not just eat all the things that I want? I also remember back then that if I was feeling sad, I would want something sweet. I remember food and sweets were rewards. That's how we celebrated. That's how I got myself feeling better if I was feeling down. And I really had no sense, like zero sense of portions and nutrition. I looked up when nutrition labels were required, and they weren't really mandatory until the 1990s. Now, I was a teenager in the 80s, so maybe it would have been really hard for me to even know what was in products. I don't know. And this was the time when the low-fat or the no-fat diets were all the craze. We thought fats were bad. Well, as a giant lover of carbs and actually having no idea what real fats were, I bought into all of those faults and unhealthy advertising of like low-fat cookies and such. Now, through college, I remember trying different diet plans, some where you bought their food and ate it. It would work for a little bit until I would fall off the wagon when I wanted to eat with other roommates or friends. Now, since I wasn't learning how to make healthy decisions myself, it was the perfect setup for yo-yo dieting. And in general, we all loved ice cream and just less nutritious food. That's kind of what college is. It just seemed that I was the one who ate more and then gained a lot more weight. I don't remember my roommates gaining weight. Now, maybe they did, but I think I was too into my own shame cycle to even see it with anyone else. And I did feel shame. I didn't date a lot in college. I was at a school where the beautiful thin girls were a dime a dozen, and I was aware I wasn't the one that the guys wanted to date. And I think I'd console myself again with overeating, because rejection and loneliness don't feel great, but my heavens, Twizzlers and pizza and chips could provide momentary pleasure to push those emotions away. Now, one thing I remember distinctly was my senior year of college. I was really busy. I was really stressed. I had a lot of anxiety and discomfort over the uncertainty of my future. So I ate ice cream to deal with those emotions. So unknowingly, I was creating way more negative in my life. And again, no one really talked about how to process and feel emotions back then. So Ben and Jerry's were late night study companions. And it's the unhealthy cheap college food that I loved. And I really didn't know how to cook, so convenience was awesome. And still, I had zero portion control on my part. I'm not sure what I weighed exactly. It was high, maybe close to 200 pounds. I don't know, when I graduated from college. I had to get a physical to go on an 18-month mission for my church. And I do remember the doctor wrote, quote, obese on the form. She didn't make a big deal out of it, but I saw it. I felt massive shame and disappointment, and I felt totally powerless to change it. I still had a mental identity that I was the big girl, that I couldn't lose weight, I couldn't keep it off if I wanted to, that it was just easier for other people. I believed that, so I unintentionally made it harder for myself. I'm sure after I saw those, quote, obese labels, I went and bought a candy bar or such to feel better. Again, notice food being the source of comfort, a momentary or immediate gratification instead of feeling the shame and delaying the gratification. And at that time, it just didn't even seem possible. I didn't believe that. Now, fast forward 18 months, and I've lived in Portugal in the Azores Islands and on the island of Madeira for 18 months, eating fish, way less convenient food, and walking a lot, like moving my body a lot. I came home much, much lighter. I'm not sure. I probably lost maybe 50 pounds on my mission. And it felt great to be complimented on how I looked. But suddenly, I was back on home turf, back to convenience foods, not being forced to walk as much. I moved to Boston and I luckily joined a gym. This began my real enjoyment of exercise and making this a habit in my life. So I managed my weight fairly well, still probably fluctuating 10 pounds here or there, which actually is really enough to make things tighter or such. But still, my new weightlifting was building muscles in places that I hadn't had them before, which allowed me to eat a little more and a few more calories could be metabolized. But I still had almost no understanding of nutrition. I would still buy into the low-fat crazes, and I didn't identify as someone who was healthy and could control portions. Now, after I got married, I started to gain more weight steadily. I went to the gym a little less because I'd want to see my husband after work. That was the time that I had previously gone to the gym. I did join other gyms, but at the time, Bill didn't really work out much. So my lifestyle slowed and we ate more. So my weight steadily climbed. For about 5 years, I worked for a management consulting company, and for many of those years, I traveled. And as many of you might know, traveling and having a healthy lifestyle can be hard, or it was hard for me, and I just didn't believe it was possible for it to be any other way. And for a few of those years, not only was I surrounded by unhealthy options, but I was also feeling some disappointment from not being a mother yet, and also just general uncertainty and unhappiness. In hindsight, I see I did enjoy my job and I was really, really good at it. But I also used food to compensate for the discomfort in a lot of areas. So I hope you're seeing a pretty strong pattern here in my life, one which many can maybe relate to. Lots of discomfort or other negative emotions, and high-calorie foods can provide an instant relief, a temporary relief from those feelings. Now, I thought about my weight a lot. I thought about my size. It was a real deep insecurity that was just bubbling under the surface. I started my pregnancy with Carter already at a really high weight, maybe like 185 pounds, I don't know. And I gained 60 pounds in that pregnancy. I was still working, so I wasn't exercising as much, and I was eating the way I had been eating in all those previous years. High calorie, snack food. But I had the excuse in my own mind that, oh, well, I was pregnant, so I could eat anything. I remember at the end of my pregnancy being at a friend's house, and her son was maybe like 10 years old, and he said, "Oh, is Heidi pregnant?" I couldn't tell. Now, you can interpret that in a lot of ways, but my insecure mind didn't think it was awesome to be 9 months pregnant and someone couldn't tell if you were just fat or pregnant. A big turning point came 2 months after having Carter. I had tried Weight Watchers a few times before his pregnancy. Remember, this is 18 years ago, so there weren't online apps or programs or such. No smartphones. Email was dial-up. I can't remember why I chose Weight Watchers. I think because a good friend of mine was doing it too. But I knew just a little bit about it, and I went to a meeting carrying Carter in the car seat. It was a Thursday night in the back room of the Northborough Historical Society. Everyone was friendly, and they loved having a young mom and her baby there. I can still remember kind of some weird emotions and thoughts of like, oh no, going to this is like admitting that I have a weight problem, but as if for decades people couldn't see that. I really felt shame, and I felt this problem meant something was wrong with me, which now I know isn't the case, but it felt that way, and I was so insecure and just so reserved about it. It was weird. Now, let me tell you a real humbling fork in the road moment for me. I went the first week to Weight Watchers, then followed the program that week, tracking my points, which is what they did back then. I thought I did well. I went back the next week, and typically someone loses more weight the first week on a quote diet or plan because usually they're going to lose a lot of water weight. Well, not everyone. I gained 3 pounds. Gained. And it's not like I went on a cruise that week and it made sense to gain. I was mortified. I was embarrassed. I felt awful. I wanted to shrink into the corners of that basement with my beautiful new baby. I had been vulnerable joining this group, and my heavens, I was a failure again. The woman taking my weight was like flustered because she didn't know what to do with someone that, is going to gain their first week, and that just added to my humiliation. And she said, "Oh, just stand over here. We'll have a leader come talk to you." And she did very nicely. What I remember most, though, was that I had this very, very conscious talk in my head. I told myself I have a choice to make. And it felt like a big, important choice. I could walk out, leave feeling like a failure, go get a Snickers or something sweet to numb the humiliation, or I could stay and keep trying again. I saw in my head the outcome of each of those. Leaving would not get me closer to the goals of being healthy. Leaving would perpetuate a cycle that I desperately wanted to break. Staying would have me facing reality, sitting in the discomfort, which I was totally creating myself. Staying was taking the step toward my goal. No one else there was probably thinking I was a failure or even knew I had gained. Some of them probably gained that week too and were feeling like huge successes for showing up. So in my self-created humiliation, I stayed. I think I realized then with all clarity, I'd be making choices every day for the rest of my life. Choices to stay on a healthy path or to revert to patterns of numbing with food. And I wanted to try again that week. Weight Watchers was a huge turning point for me. I read nutrition labels. I started buying Shape magazine or other exercise and nutrition magazines. I started measuring portions. I paid attention to fiber and protein, and I learned what really was a fat versus a carbohydrate. I knew I wanted to get pregnant again fairly soon, and I wanted to be at a lower weight than I had been when I started Carter's pregnancy. I went back to the gym and also had an exercise machine at home that I used more regularly. And the weight started to fall off. Not super fast, but it was regular and consistent. But there was a much bigger change happening in my mind. I was changing what I thought and believed about myself. I was changing my identity. Now, my identity was changing in other ways at this point too. I was suddenly a full-time mom. I wasn't working. So I was changing from identifying myself as a consultant to a mom. And I was super in love with my son and all things about being a mom. I started telling myself I am a healthy person. As I saw food choices, I'd ask, okay, well, what does a healthy person choose here? I told myself repeatedly, and still do, I'm someone who controls my portions. I don't overeat. Now, I did get pregnant 9 months after Carter was born, and in Matthew's pregnancy, I gained only 50 pounds. I was relatively active through it, and I had started my pregnancy lighter than Carter's, which I did again then even less in Abby's pregnancy. A year before Abby was born, I had a miscarriage. So even though I had learned a lot about nutrition and was eating healthier, I had gained about 10 pounds in the pregnancy that I lost. So when I could go back to the gym, I started running. I started with 5 minutes. Running had been really, really hard for me before getting pregnant. I would always get cramps really suddenly. But after this pregnancy, I stopped getting the cramps. But I could only run about 5 minutes. Then I would add a few minutes each day until I was running like 3 miles a day. Something turned in my head. I started telling myself, I am an athlete. Now, I run slow, y'all. I probably have terrible form, but I started self-identifying as an athlete, and I used that definition, one that I created, with role models in my head as a guidepost for food I wanted to eat. If I traveled, I'd ask, okay, what food does an athlete buy here? What food does an athlete order here at this restaurant? I slowly made even more changes. I continued to run until I was almost 7 months pregnant with Abby. Then I slowed to a walk on the treadmill. Now, I still gained 50 pounds in her pregnancy, but once again, I started that pregnancy even lighter than the ones previously, and my mind and body were changing. I remember going to several 5K races after this pregnancy with my friend Kim. I was just so proud of myself for doing them. I was slow. I'd finish 8 minutes after Kim, but I didn't care. Even if I had to walk some of the race, this was now part of my identity. Athletes run races, or at least that's what I told myself. I put myself in the space of people I wanted to be like, that had healthier habits than me. And by this time, I was a very committed exerciser. I'd wake up early almost every day to go to the gym or do a video at home. Do you guys remember those Insanity DVDs? I loved them. I set myself up for success. I picked out my clothes every night. So in the morning, I just had to roll out of bed, put them on, and get in the car. I did all that even through very snowy New England winters. See, I knew very consciously that my day was 1,000 times better when I had exercised. And I would say to myself, my heavens, you ran 3 miles today. You can do anything. But it wasn't just the exercise. My experience is that nutrition is the most important factor, followed by exercise. I love the quote, "You can't outrun the fork." And it's true. To lose weight, I had to track what I ate and make conscious decisions. I really liked baking, and by this point, I had amazing recipes for cookies and other baked goods. But here's the thing. It's hard for me to have all those in the house and not eat like 7 cookies and then get derailed. That would sabotage my success, and I also didn't believe that athletes did that. When my kids started school, I liked to be the mom who delivered homemade cookies to teachers and neighbors and others. But over years, I had to tell myself, my intent is to do something nice for this teacher. Is it more important for me to be known as an amazing baker or for me to honor my health goals? I chose my health goals, and I bought Lindt chocolate balls or something to give teachers where I could give it all away and not keep temptations at home. So again, the changes were in my mindset, in my identity, and what I did was a result of this. And this was all very conscious. There were other habits that changed after having children. I always liked staying up late prior to having kids. Of course, having children forces you to wake up when they do, but I started getting up even an hour or so before they did. I saw other people who were healthy, who had habits I wanted to emulate, and I saw one thing those people consistently did was wake up early. And I decided, I'm the type of person who wakes up early. I can hear any college roommate of mine dying in disbelief because I was always the girl that slept in. So my weight loss wasn't just a change in what I ate. My identity changed, resulting in reorganizing, reprioritizing other things in my life that would support long-term success. When I go to events with food, I remind myself going in, just because food is available doesn't mean I need to eat it. How do healthy, athletic people eat at these events? Healthy people make deliberate choices of what they fuel their body with. So I'd create that mindset going in. I started assessing what food was available, then choosing at first the healthiest food, proteins, vegetables, and then maybe sparingly the other stuff. An interesting thing happens when you track your food. You start deciding what food means more to you. If I was going to have a 200-calorie treat, did I want that to be in the form of bread or a cookie? I noticed my body feels so much better without heavy bread in it. I still have some bread occasionally now, but it's rare. I don't eat sandwiches with bread. I just don't desire it anymore. That decline in my desire started first in me telling myself that bread isn't getting me to my goals and to choose food that's going to get me where I want to go. I don't reward myself with food. Food is fuel. It can be a way for people to come together and maybe socialize, but food isn't a celebration. I don't desire a big dinner at a restaurant anymore like I used to. I definitely like good food with flavor, but I remember the lethargic feeling the next day after a huge meal, or I remember the feelings of being too full and I just don't want it. I remember that as I'm making choices at a restaurant or at an event. The first few bites are the only ones that taste the best. And if I want that food, it isn't going to leave the earth permanently. I could get 3 more bites next week if I really want it. In my mind, that discipline and commitment are what an athletic and healthy person does. They can say no when they don't want something. They can eat 1/3 of an item. They don't sit and ruminate and fantasize about food. Sure, they like food, but it doesn't consume them. Now, I still have a ways to go in being healthy. I drink way too much diet soda. I know that. I know my definitions of healthy and being an athlete are different from other people, and it's okay. I love how through this process, I've stayed grounded to what I have thought. I've moved out of other people's heads and I've gotten much more in touch with my goals, who I want to be, not comparing myself to other people. Over the years, I've tried a few different, quote, diets. One time, a diet eating bars during the day and a meal at night. It was incredibly restrictive and, big surprise, I'd gain back the 10 pounds or so that I'd lose when I would stop it. So I just learned that didn't work for me. And I'm much more focused on long-term and permanent changes that I can make. Now, when my weight does go up some, I know I need to rein it back in and track what I'm eating, but I don't revert to bad habits because I identify as someone with pretty consistent good habits. On vacations, I'll have treats. In North Carolina, we go to Sonic occasionally, and I get a mini blast. Mini. Smaller than the small. This summer, one of my sons was really watching his health and he told me, Mom, the mini really is filling enough. Again, it's the awareness of portions, nutrition, and just making it a rare occurrence. I am aware of the habits of the people around me, of where I go. It seems we're surrounded by unhealthy choices, so I have to be deliberate. I bring workout clothes on every trip. I know which hotels have gyms. Now I go to Orange Theory, and I've gone to their studios all over in Utah, to multiple sites in New York City. Not in an obsessive way, but I ask myself, what does an athlete do? Plus, going there allows me to usually eat a little bit more on those trips. Still, though, I'm keeping my habits and my identity no matter where I go. A few years ago, I was proud as my family checked into a hotel and we passed the gym in the hotel, and my daughter said as we went by, "Oh, Mom, look, there's the gym for you." She's grown up seeing that I am active, so she identified me and the gym together. That made me happy. I bring healthy snacks with me in my purse. I plan ahead, even just a few hours ahead. On this journey, I've learned my metabolism and body rhythms work best when I'm eating 5 to 6 small snacks or meals a day. I need more consistent food coming into my body. If not, my hunger hormones are thrown off and I'm in a state where I will be really tempted to overeat. This is something I've learned about my body and I honor it. Y'all, don't let other people tell you something, oh, you need to do this or only eat this little, or everyone in France eats this and they're all thin, so you need to do that. You figure out what works for you. Who cares what works for other people? They aren't you. Figure out your body, how it feels best, then decide it's your job to create the circumstances for your success. Right now, I'm coaching a client who is incredibly successful. She's lost over 40 pounds this year, doing intermittent fasting and eating 1 meal a day with just a few snacks. She figured out how to make it work for her, and it's something that she can do ongoing. Be confident to make your choices, honor your body, and don't let other people push food on you or push their opinions. An amazing gift to yourself is to honor what is best for you with confidence. Put yourself in places with people who have the same goals, who are people you want to be like. I've gone to a few certain amusement parks over the years. I observe people and the food, not from a judgmental place of like, I'm better, not that at all. But in my mind, I see this is not a place promoting a lifestyle I want. The all-you-can-eat meal plan isn't part of my identity. One of my close groups of friends are women I met at my gym. We text daily. We go to dinner every week or so, depending on COVID. We exercised twice a week over Zoom during quarantine. I surround myself with people in line with my identity. I do weigh myself regularly. The number is just a number. I get to decide what the number means. It's just reality. I need to accept reality with compassion and kindness, and I've learned to do this. Also, I'm not a number. No matter my weight, that isn't me. But I do want to respect and take care of the body that my soul is in. That is important to me. A month ago, I had a birthday, and about that time, I realized that all my exercise clothes were so old. One top strap had even ripped. I told my family, I want to throw them all out. I want all new exercise clothes from Lululemon and Athleta. And I did just that. My son said, "My heavens, Mom, if there's anyone who needs the best exercise clothes, it's you." Today, I get to reap the rewards of the girl who stood in Weight Watchers almost 18 years ago and decided to stay. Every day, I say thank you to my past self who did hard things and still is. I know this journey isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. It isn't big, monumental actions. It's small, deliberate changes, choices. All of those small choices are votes towards my identity, toward my future. Last year, I was getting my annual physical, and the doctor only had glowing things to say about my health. I sat and allowed that praise and pride and joy to sink into every part of my body. I said thank you to my past self, even the self who ate to numb her emotions. She was just as valuable and worthy as I am now. This hasn't changed. Weight doesn't change our goodness, but it has changed how I get to experience life. It changes how I sleep, breathe, what I can do, and my confidence in other parts of my life. I recently saw on my Orangetheory app on my phone that I've gone to 570 classes over the last 4 years. Did you hear that? 570. Each one is really hard, but I did them one by one. And in a recent body fat test that I took there, I have above average levels of muscle. I still track my food in my MyFitnessPal, not in an obsessive or restrictive way, but I track my macros and I know what I need to eat to lose or to maintain. Yes, it takes discipline. It takes effort. And the reward is I get to order a small size shirt from a store that I used to order extra large. The reward is sleeping soundly for 9 hours a night. The reward is I can walk and walk and walk on trips anywhere. I don't think about my weight and feel insecure all day like I used to. I focus now on other substantial parts of my life, my family, my business, and of course I do plan out parts of my health, but from a confident and happy place. Now, I want to be clear, we are not our weight. We are not a number on a scale or such. I have only been able to do this and hope to continue to be healthy, knowing my value is not my weight or the size 6 pants I'm wearing. Attaching our value and worth to that is fleeting and weak, and it won't support real life. If this is the first episode you're listening to, go listen to the first 63 episodes to get a sense of who I am in addition to this journey. I just know a lot of you are struggling. I know I have learned the cause of my weight gain and I've learned tools to change it all around. And these aren't things taught in many weight loss classes or books or in a diet. What I did was a natural result of what I thought. Again, when the inside changes, the outside changes to match it. This is why when I found the coaching model, the CTFAR model from Brooke Castillo, which again, listen to episode 1 or follow me on social media if you want more details of that. I knew I had finally found an answer to help people who asked me over the years, what have you done? What's the secret to your success? I finally had a way to answer them. So reach out to me if you have questions. Forward this episode to people who might be struggling with these issues and don't think there's a solution. I'm excited to start my Lose 13 Pounds in 13 Weeks group coaching program in January 2020. Again, signups will happen in December. Be on my email list and register for webinars to learn more tips and tools to eat and live healthy during the holidays. And see how to sign up for this exclusive group. You are worth it. You don't need to eat to numb yourself from the emotions of life. Show yourself that you are valuable. I am much more confident and a much more grounded mother because I like myself. Now, when group coaching starts, I will have limited spots for private one-on-one coaching packages. So if you want personalized coaching, sign up for a free consult call on HeidiBenjaminson.com. Let your children see you setting and reaching goals now. You've always hired coaches for them. Now it's time for you to have a coach, and I'd be honored to be yours. Have a great week.